reference angles are the positive acute, less than 90, angle formed by the terminal side of the angle and the x-axis. That is the super important part right here. Woo! There we go. So I'm going to show you 4 different scenarios here. I'm going to write them very large, so you're going to have to write them a little smaller to squeeze them inside the box I have for you here. Oh, goodness. It's just that kind of day, isn't it? Oh, those days. All right. So situation 1 is when it ends up in quadrant 1, which is this top right section. So the reference angle would form between this terminal side and the x-axis. Now, the acute angle with the x-axis would go here. So let's say the measure of this angle is theta. Now, the reference angle is the same thing because the reference angle is formed by the terminal side and the x-axis, but it has to be the acute version. So you can't start with the terminal side and then end up on the left side of the x-axis. It just goes to the closest part of the x-axis. So I'm going to write theta prime there as well, because we're going to get some formulas going for these. All right, so if it ends up in quadratic 2, oh goodness, might be something like this. So this is your angle theta. Now the reference angle, it has to be acute and go to the x-axis. So the reference angle would actually be this angle over here. That's the acute angle formed to the x-axis. So we'll call that theta prime. If it ends up in quadrant 3, which is this bottom left one, quad 3. So here would be the initial side. It would wrap all the way around, and let's say it goes here. Right, so that's a pretty large angle there for theta. Might be like 240 degrees. Now, when we are doing the reference angle, it's you start with the terminal side, and you make an acute angle with the x-axis. It's going to be right there. So we'll call that theta prime. And the last possible scenario is if it ends up in quadrant 4. So you would have a starting side here. It might be 300 degrees, and it wraps around all the way to here. So then the theta, or the theta prime, would start with the terminal side, and it goes to the nearest x-axis, which would be right there. So we'll call that theta prime. So now the formula parts. If it's in quadrant 1, you find the reference angle, it's just the exact same thing as your initial angle. So you just say theta plus 0 equals theta prime, right? You don't have to change it at all if it's in quadrant 1. Now, if it's in quadrant 2, the way you're going to find the reference angle is you just do 180 minus the angle. 180 minus theta will give us theta prime. Now for quadrant 3, when it ends up in the bottom left, you're actually going to do your angle, your theta. Oops. I'm sorry, I forgot the theta on the second one. On quadrant 3, you're going to do your theta minus 180 degrees. That'll give you the theta prime. And the last one for quadrant 4, you're going to do 360 degrees minus your theta. That was a lot of information to throw at you at once. So I'm going to start the next video.